Hello everyone, welcome to this session. In this session, we will talk about write your own MATLAB functions. We also call it custom MATLAB functions. Previously, you have learned how to use MATLAB built-in functions. So for example, the function name with the parentheses, we put the argument. And the example is sine with pi divided by 2. Right, we have see it for several times. So now you can also write your own MATLAB functions. We call it custom functions. In MATLAB, this is the same as any programming languages. We use functions to achieve modular programming. So this means you don't need to write a very complex program in one script. Instead, you will write several functions, and these functions are reusable and easier to debug compared to writing it in a long script. The custom function, we write it as a separate .m file, right? Or we can write it at the bottom of a script. So for simplicity, we can mainly write it as a separate .m file. We can use it anywhere, right? So inside the function is your MATLAB code. And this is similar to a MATLAB script file. But the difference is inside a function, the variables that you can only use are the inputs. It means the function arguments, input to the function, as well as the variables you defined inside the function. Right. So remember that the function itself has its own workspace. The variables you defined outside the function doesn't work in the function, except they are the function input. This is like every programming language. Let's see in MATLAB how to define a function. First, we open a file editor. Now we can say we first need to write a function. So this is telling the script that I'm writing is a function, not a normal script. So we need a function declarator. Then we have the output value. Here we put one variable as the output value. Then the function name with parentheses and the input arguments. This is the function body. So we can use a percentage as a command line to comment what this function is doing. Then we write the function content. So in this function, we have two inputs, argument 1, argument 2. We first add them and add the product of them. So with a semicolon, so it means after executing this line, the result won't be printed out in the command window. Eventually, we can put an AND here, so it means the function is AND. When you save it, we can say automatically the name of this file will be the function name you defined here. So keep using this to make sure that this is a function that you are saved using your function name that you have defined. By default, clearly the file is a .m file, is a file type. Now we define a MATLAB function. Then we can call this function, right? The way is the same as any other MATLAB functions. The built-in functions, we use the same way. We provide a function name and we provide the input arguments. So for example, the function we just wrote, the function name, we call it a function name. Okay. Then we give two variables. One is var1, one is var2. var1 equals to 10, var2 equals to 4. So we can say function name, var1, var2, it comes here. Then based on the previous function, we can just implement that and we can get the function value of it, 54, as we can calculate here, right? So we save all of this in a script file, we call it main.m. Then we just type the file name there. It means implement this file will be implemented, and this function will be called, and this is the result. So because we don't have a semicolon here, this is the result, right? Maybe it's displayed. So if we put a semicolon here, there won't be anything displayed here, but you can find in the workspace, the 54 is under the variable of ANS. So what is ns? The last value that is calculated, but is not assigned to any variable, which we have talked about last week, right? Also, the custom functions can also have multiple outputs. This is the same as MATLAB built-in functions. So remember, we can have remember the max function and the min function we have discussed last week, right? So the max function returns the maximum value, and optionally, you can return the index of the maximum value. This is what we have done last week. So to get the multiple outputs, we should use a square brackets to put them in. So in the function definition, we should also do the same. So we can say function declarator followed by a square brackets with two outputs if we want that there are two outputs in this function. So here the vol1 is a sum of them, vol2 is a product of them. So we can see is here vol1, vol2 with a square brackets. This is a function definition. When we want to use this function, this is the same as MATLAB built-in function. So if we don't say we want the second output, only the prime one, the first one, will be returned by default. If we want both output, we use square brackets to show them. So as we have seen before, here we define array, is this one. If we just use one variable, by default, it will provide me the maximum value of this array, and you can see here, this is 9. If we want the both output, then we add an IDX. So this one will provide the index of the maximum value 9. So you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This index is 5. So you can see more details in the live script. So now we have introduced how to write your own function, either have a single output or have multiple outputs in MATLAB, and how to call the function that you have defined. MATLAB function is the same as all other language. So we can say the most MATLAB variables are passed to the function by value. So pass by value, this means what? When calling the function, a copy of the variable is made, and this copy is passed to the function. So any changes we do to this copy doesn't affect the original variable. So for example, we define a equals to 5 outside this function, and a is an input of this function. The function a dot b dot blah blah blah, and inside the function we change the a value from 5 to 10, right? But this doesn't affect the a defined outside this function, right? The 10 is inside the function. It may join the function output, right? But the value of a outside the function doesn't change. Also, a function cannot access variables that are not passed by the function inputs. So for example, I define a variable c outside the function, but c is not set as a function input. So in the function itself, we can't use a variable c. So the function has its own memory. And the name of the variable passed to the function can be different from the variable name inside the function definition. So for example, an input variable, I name it as a. So function a, b, c. This is my function definition. And outside the function, I can name the variable d, and I pass d as a first variable input as a function when we call it. So I can say function def. So this d is different from the definition a when we define the function. So this is the same as all the programming languages. So for more details, you can see the live scripts for review. Okay, so that's all for this session. Thank you very much.